Okay, giving a brief introduction. My name is Songati. I work as a systems reliability engineer in Nutanix, and I have been in the corporate for 4 years now. And yeah, that's pretty much. I work in the primarily in the domains of virtualization and cloud computing. I have worked in support, and system reliability is my second, job profile. I'll be soon moving into a new job profile as well. I mean, that's on the way, and that's the reason why I was delayed today. So yeah, let's get going now. All right. Once you clear the aptitude test, okay, what comes next in the picture? It is the group discussion. Very quickly, if you can just jot down a few things what you understand by a group discussion, I would be very happy if this is a bit interactive. Just in a few words, what you understand by a group discussion. Anyone? Perfect. Thank you, Ayush. Putting forward your thoughts. Yes, absolutely. Discussing something at common topic. Very nice. Very, very nice. Yes, this is exactly what a group discussion is. You are a group of 6 or 7 or 10, and you are asked to speak on a particular topic. All right. Now, the first thing that I want to speak about a group discussion is the power of starting and stopping a discussion. All right. So when we say starting and stopping a discussion, which means that a person who is starting or giving a particular introduction to a particular topic, right, is not only giving his or her first impression, but is also opening the topic to everybody else who are a part of that particular group discussion. All right, it is very, very important because a lot of people have less idea about how do I call it, about how a topic could run through. You are actually putting ideas into their heads as well. That's how important this introduction is. Now, you might be thinking that how can an idle introduction be, right? So I have seen a lot of times students making this mistakes, like in an introduction, the person who is speaking first will start off giving his or her point about the topic. All right, that is not the ideal introduction. All right, you are always welcome to put your topic once you have given a proper introduction. All right, let me take an example. I always take this example because this particular topic is very common for college students higher, and it's also a pretty simple one. Okay, so the first the example that I would take is let's say science and technology. All right, now your favorite technological advancement could be anything. It could be what, like Google Maps, or it could be WhatsApp, right? But that is a part of the discussion. When you are giving an introduction, all right, please make sure that you are starting from questions like why, when, where did it start, what was the requirement of science and technology, why, why did it even come in the picture, with what did it start. It could be the telephone, the tube lights, fire, anything for that matter. All right, so when you're giving the introduction, it has answered a few questions: why, when, what, purpose. So once you have given that proper 40 seconds or 1 minute of introduction to that topic, you are free to give your own point, and then you can say that this is my favorite invention or advancement because it has improved human lives in so many ways. All right, this is a very common mistake that I see, and because you guys are there almost giving interviews and group discussions, I don't want you to make these mistakes, because sometimes on very, very small mistakes we get chucked out of a discussion, because we do take these discussions, and I know that because of these small mistakes, that student might be technically very capable, but the group discussion is definitely deciding before you step into the technical interview, right? So this is a very, very important one. All right, now when you are concluding a particular discussion, all right, make sure you are not putting your point again. All right, a conclusion needs to have at least 4 highlights of the group discussion. Please keep this in mind, at least 4 important highlights. This, your point of view, your opinion could or may not be a part of these 4 highlights. You can put into it, there's no problem, but you need to be sure that you have mentioned the 4 highlights. And because the conclusions, right, person who is giving the conclusion is giving the last impression again. If it's a good conclusion, bingo, I think you are good to go into the next round, trust me on that. All right, now sometimes I see that because the panelists, right, we do give second opportunities for a conclusion. Why? Because the conclusion have not been good, because they haven't met the criteria for a good conclusion. That's the only reason why. So if you have stepped up, all right, maybe you might be thinking, how do I remember points, right? So when you're sitting for a group discussion, it's not bad to keep a pen and a paper. It's never too bad. All right, but it's not like you're like looking down and writing. No, because this is all like, it's all going to be more like Zoom meetings. Make sure you're looking front, you're just writing bullet points, one word bullet points, so that you can summarize. When you're summarizing, it doesn't skip your head. That's it. Okay, now how to approach an unknown topic. Yeah, this, if it's a little, if it's a company who's offering more package, or who is intending to just hire 2 or 3 people, or maybe 1 for that matter, they might give you a difficult GD topic, because they want, they want their candidate to know, to be well aware about maybe general topics or current affairs. I can think of, if you ask me about difficult topics, what I can think of, maybe SpaceX, or electric motors. I think this is still a bit easier one. Something like Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, some things that are booming in the market right now, right? So these are the kind of little difficult topics that could come in the picture. Be sure that you have little idea about the current affairs before you go for a group discussion, just in case that comes in the picture. All right, now let's say you get a topic that you have absolutely zero idea about. How do you approach it? First, stay calm, do not panic. I have seen so many times students panicking so bad that even if they have something to speak, they completely blank out. All right, do not stay in that particular situation. The reason being that that is your one and only opportunity. If you do not speak, you are 100% sure that you're chucked out, right? So if you still do not know a topic, if you're not aware how to approach a particular topic, do not give the introduction, do not even attempt to give the introduction. All right, listen to what others are speaking. Listen, understand, okay, this topic is going in this particular direction. If you panic, you are not going to even hear anything. So you need to stop panicking first. You need to listen. There could be, out of 7 people in a group, you could, you could imagine maybe 3 or 4 speaking well. So all you need to do is listen to what others are speaking. Listen, understand. If not some exactly relevant, you can speak something related, something around it, something that makes a little bit of sense. Better than not speaking anything. Remember that. That is your one and only opportunity. If you stay mum, it's an end game for you, right? Okay, third, countering a point you don't agree to. Oh my god, this is something that I really want to speak about, because I have lately seen, I don't, we, the young generation, the college pass out students, we have that hot blood running in our veins, right? So we just want to fight, or we get offended mostly if somebody else is having a different opinion, or have opposed or disagreed to what we have said, right? In such a situation, you need not oppose or challenge anybody. Do not counterattack anybody, please, because you do not want to get into a conflict situation. All right, you need to use the right set of words. I would be giving a few examples which could be really, really helpful. All right. And let me take a very small example. All right. You will never get this topic. All right. Like never ever get this topic. This is just an example. Let's say red versus blue. All right. The topic is red versus blue. Now, you have all the points about blue. All right. All the points about blue. But the people who are speaking before you, let's say the first three who spoke before you, are speaking about how red is, all the good points about red. All right. This is a situation where you should not let your morale down in the first place. Do not let your morale down. Always remember that this is an opinion based discussion. All right. People can have multiple opinions, and you need not oppose them as well. All right. So if somebody is talking about red, well and good, it's their opinion. You want to speak about blue, all right, you can use these set of words. You can note it down. You can think of better ones than what I'm saying. All right. So like an example, you can start off by saying, like, I understand that red has so many advantages. However, I would also like to speak a few of the advantages that blue has. And then you can start about blue. All right. Never use words like I don't agree to what you say, I oppose, or this is not a right information, this is not correct. Okay, these are all opinion based. Unless and until there are fact stated, wrongly stated, you need not correct anybody. All right. If somebody is cutting and speaking against your topic, all you need to say is, I respect the opinions that they have given, but I have this opinion. Because not everybody, it's more like not everybody can be, for or against a particular thing. There are always opinions. You got to respect their opinion, and others, even if others don't respect your opinion, it's fine. Trust me, they are at fault, they are at a loss. Because corporates definitely do not want people who likes to get into a conflict or who does not understand others' opinion. That's the whole point of giving a group discussion topic where there could be one or more opinions. All right, that's their mindset. You have to understand that, okay, they have a mindset where they want to understand how you can work as a team. All right, so never get into a conflict situation, even if others are cutting your points down. Okay, I hope you understand that part. Yep. The last and final point is encouraging others to speak. Okay, this is basically more like a personal thing that I have observed, and that I have also used in a couple of group discussions, and it always comes into play, into good play. Let me put it that way. It's more like, there is a group of 7 people, let's say. All right, we always have these dominant speakers in a particular group discussion, right? And then there are a little few not so confident, who are willing to speak but not so confident folks or colleagues of yours, right, who are there in the group discussion. And you see that there are these 3 people who just keeps on going on and on and on about the topic. All right, at that particular point, you can step up. All right, you could be one of the dominant speakers, or you could be one of the non-dominant speakers as well, but this is after you have given your point completely. All right, after you have finished speaking. All right, now while these guys are speaking, there will be an opportunity where there is 2 or 3 seconds of gap while they are switching among the speakers, or they're taking a breath. Maybe you can take up that opportunity and say that, hey, I think you wanted to give your point across. Would you want to speak something, or would you want to add to what they said? So that way you show more like a team player. You're more like a team player. You're concerned about the others, which gives a very, very strong impression about you. All right. Because see, while you're in a corporate, you're never going to work alone. All right, never. It's not a loner job at all. You have to deal with a lot of people. So the moment you can work as a team, that's when they want to put you forward. Okay. All right, this is about group discussion. If you have any questions, please feel free to put down in the chat. Okay, I will be taking that up and in the end, and I'm going to move on to resume writing. Okay, so what is a resume? I think resume is the most important thing, because that stays from the beginning to the end, and that's more like something in written, especially nowadays when meetings and interviews are occurring over Zoom. I think the only thing that stays emailed to the interviewer or to the panelists is the is the papers. I mean the resume papers, right? So I feel writing a correct resume, or a format, or attractive, eye catchy resume is very, very important, because there are times when we got to decide. Let's say there are 5 eligible candidates, all right, who have done their interviews equally good, but there are just 3 open positions. We need to let go of 2. Okay, now they have done their interviews equally so good that based on what can we now reject, it comes down to the resumes. All right, in the beginning it may or may not be that important, but during the final selection sometimes it becomes so important that some people literally lose their job because their resume wasn't that good. Maybe it was good, but not as good enough as the others. All right, so make sure you're writing or documenting a good resume. Okay, so what exactly is a resume? Resume is like the trailer to the storybook you are, isn't it? It's completely your life written in short in that particular piece of paper, or in 2 pieces of paper. So you really need to write it well. Always remember, what is written in your resume is known by you and not by the person in front of you. So never shy away from writing your achievements or your skill sets, or do not fake it. Maybe that is also important, but you need to at least recollect every highlight of your life, maybe from your school, from your college, something that you have done different, and you need to document that well. Okay, yeah. And tell me something about yourself. Okay, this is one interview question. I think the most common interview question that is asked in technical, managerial, HR rounds, everything after GD. How many rounds you have? This question is a common question. All right, and even in this question, I do see some students fumbling and not able to speak. Trust me, this is a question that is asked about yourself. You need to answer this confidently. If not anything, this is a question that you can absolutely nail. All right, and the worst part being that we see sometimes that some of the students literally stop at their name, the college, the degree, and where they come from. That's it. They're not saying anything more than that, because I understand, because they're nervous. And hence the first question is something that is being asked about themselves, about ourselves, because we want to break that ice. We want to just know from you how you are. All right, so all I want to say is, do not stop at your college and from where you come from. All right, you need to speak a bit more about yourself, a bit more, like what are your skill sets, what is your hobbies, your strengths, what is your final year project, what have you done that you think you stand out of the crowd because of that particular activity that you have done. All right, so these things are very, very important when you speak, when this question is being asked. All right, now I'll give you a small idea, a little bit of tip how you can practice this maybe. All right, I don't want you to by heart this particular answer, tell me something about yourself, but you need to practice. Stand in front of the mirror, look into the eyes of your own self, and practice this, so that you get a hint about how the flow can be. All right, with the flow. All right, this is where I want to tip you a bit. When I say a flow, just remember in mind that, okay, I need to speak about my name, my college, my background, and then I'll speak about my skill set. Then I'll come to my final year project. Then I'll speak about my strengths and my hobbies. So when you remember a flow in your head, right, you do not miss out on points. Remember, trust me, it really, really helps. Just do not by heart the content. Remember the flow in which you're going to speak, the bullet points, so that you do not skip anything major that has been done in your life by you. All right, so that's one good way of answering this particular question. Give it a try. If you like it, you can definitely improvise on on your own resume itself. Yeah. Write your strengths and hobbies with care. Okay. I don't think it's that important with regarding your strengths and hobbies. But then if it is a company who is paying you a lot, who is giving a big compensation, or it's a dream company, the managerial round especially, I'll be coming to it very soon. The managerial round is where you might be tested on your strengths and hobbies. All right, if you have a unique hobby, you could be asked questions on that, and trust me, that plays in your profit big time, because a little bit part of your time is spent by you, impressing the other person by your own activities, not by a technical question or a logical question. So hobbies sometimes can be asked, some very unique hobbies. If you have some, if you don't have, maybe start practicing something, because it really is helpful sometimes, right? Same as strengths, if you write confidence as your strength, sometimes you might be tested on your confidence, on the threshold up to where you can hold your confidence up to, and till the time you don't break it, you don't break yourself down. So you could be tested on some companies does that. It's called stress interviews. If you want, you can read more on stress interviews. You'll get to know a bit more on it. Yeah. Have a habit of tuning a resume according to the job profile. Okay, this is very, very important, especially when we say, right, we need there are 5 candidates and 3 needs to be selected, and we need to chuck down on 2. That's where this thing comes a bit into play. All right, let's say the requirement of the company is Python coding. I'm just taking an example. All right, it's Python coding. In your skill set, you have Python written. Make sure for that particular company you have Python on number 1, so that when they're turning through the pages of your resume, they can see that, so that you are relevant for that particular company. These small tweaks, trust me, it really helps when there are like 10 resumes and we need to scan, right, for skimming the resumes. These small things really help in shortlisting as well. So yeah, all the best to writing your resumes. All right, they could be really helpful if you write a good one. Yeah. Again, guys, put down your questions if you have any in the chat box. I'll be moving on to the next topic, which is technical round. Okay, technical round. Once you have cleared the GD, the next that comes in the picture is the technical round. Everybody's favorite round. Yes, no, maybe. Sometimes in favor, sometimes no, isn't it? So technical round is a little predictable round, I can say. The only round which is a bit predictable, because we have learned the concepts throughout college, and we know what kind of questions could be asked, because now the internet is there. We know that this particular company, they could be asking this kind of questions. So the first thing before you enter a technical interview, make sure you have done a good research on the company. All right, make sure the kind of job profile it is. Firstly, how you tune your resume according to the interview. Very important, tune your knowledge also according to what the company is. So if they have, they're not everything, right? Everything that we learn in engineering, in college, I mean, the practical application could be on particular subjects only. All right, there could be tools that are not taught in college, but they are used by that particular company. So it's never bad to just go through a little bit here and there. Never bad, trust me. It simply shows, if you bring that particular tool up, right, it simply shows that you are interested in that particular profile. You are interested to learn more besides your textbook knowledge. So do a good research and be thorough with the concepts that encompass the profile. Again, the same thing again. If they're asking for something like Jenkins or something, it's not difficult. Just go through the basic definition of what it does. It's a CI/CD pipeline. Just go through what continuous integration is. That's all. All right, not in detail. This is just a tip because it really helps. All right. Concepts from data structure, operating system, database, and one more topic that I haven't mentioned yet is networking. All right, I repeat again: data structure, operating system, database, and networking. These 4 concepts can never fail you. All right, any kind of technical interview, these are the kind of questions you would be asked. All right, why data structure? Because every if it is especially a programming kind of a role, you need to know data structures, at least the basic ones. as in you need to have a complete understanding of how basic things, basic data structure algorithms work, right? Operating system, because everything runs over an operating system. If you're interviewing for a product based company which uses a Linux box as their basic on which a Linux box on which their application is running, let's say, right, you would be questioned on how Linux works, right? That's where operating system comes in the picture. Database, everything requires a database because you're storing our data, right? So the kind of database, again, you need to know. Networking, because nothing works without a network, right? So because these four concepts cannot fail you. If you have already completed these subjects, I would request you to go back, revise these particular topics, all right? You would be questioned on these. And a lot of people ask about coding languages. According to me, even when I was in college, I just knew one language properly, and I think I was able to make through mostly all the interviews that I've sat for. So one coding language is enough, because syntax is something that can be learned always, all right? Logic and pseudocodes, logic is something that you need time on. So focus, put your focus mainly on how the logic works, on how simple you can make a program, or how the flow is, all right? Instead of trying to learn 2 3 syntaxes, syntax can be looked up always in the internet, but logic is what matters more. So learn, but you need to know one coding language perfectly from the top to the bottom. So that's important. Okay. Technical interview, smart versus honest, very very important. Okay, I want you to really listen to what I'm saying when I'm talking about smart versus honest in a technical interview. Now, sometimes we are asked questions which we have no idea about. Okay, let's say, let me just take an example. Let's say the interviewer has asked, what is a Cassandra database? Example, all right? Now, you know what a SQL database is, what a structured database is, what a NoSQL database is, right? But you cannot recall maybe what Cassandra database is. Now, if you know, just an example, if you get to know that Cassandra is a SQL database, it is not a SQL database, all right? I'm just giving an example. Now you get to know that Cassandra is a SQL database, let's say, you know the lengths and depths of a SQL database, isn't it? Right? So that's where I want you to ask probing questions if you do not know a particular topic, all right? So simple, very simple. You can just tell the interviewer, I know what databases are, but Cassandra is not at the top of my head. So if you can just tell what kind of database it is, right? Just one probing question, and he tells you maybe it's a SQL database. You know what to answer about, excuse me, a SQL database, right? So that's how important probing questions are. Instead of just staying mum and panicking and thinking, oh, what should I answer? If I answer this, it will be wrong. Instead of that, ask a question, as simple as that. Do not panic, stay calm, all right? When does honest come into picture? Let's say you have asked a probing question and you're still not able to understand, okay, what could be the answer? That's exactly when you need to be honest. Tell them, I do not think I have an answer to your question. I don't think I can recall this particular answer. Or if you know something relevant, just speak a little bit about it. Yeah, and say that this is the only knowledge that I have about this topic. Then that person moves on to the next topic. If you stay quiet, that is not just you are losing some very important time that could be made use in answering a better question, right? So instead of staying quiet for like 2 minutes, 5 minutes, even I've seen students just staying quiet for like 3 minutes, 5 minutes, not even answering anything. Better than that, tell them you do not know about it. That's it. Go to a better question. Next question you will be able to answer. The impression is still maintained, instead of staying quiet. Yeah, so that would be about technical round, and go through as many logic and pseudocodes as possible regarding data structure. Understand the logic. It's very very important. Know where to invest your time, and nowadays even money for that matter, right? When you're going through some courses. So it's very very important, because see, at the end of the day, you are going to land yourself a good job, all right? If you know where to invest well, the returns are also going to be good enough. So very important. Next, managerial round. Okay, what is a managerial round? Again, I'm gonna very briefly speak about this round because this only comes in the picture. The main mass recruiters, right, like Infosys, Capgemini, these companies do not have managerial rounds as such. So managerial round is more of a mix of a technical and non-technical round. Person who takes a managerial round, this is mostly a person who was into a technical field and then have got converted into a managerial kind of position, has been into corporate for like 10-15 years. So these are the kind of people who take managerial rounds. All right, first thing, be very conscious and mindful when you enter a managerial round, because this could be a stress interview. All right, listen to what they're saying. Do not try to ask probing questions in this case. All right, unlike a technical interview, you can ask probing question. Managerial round, avoid asking probing questions, because the questions are going to be very simple. All right, it could be as simple as how does a tube light works, or how does a router works, or how would you function a lift maybe. All right, they are very, very simple questions. All you need to be is mindful and conscious. All right, they're usually logic driven. Some puzzle that you could be, some riddle or puzzle that you could be asked to solve. Could be a mix of a little bit of technical, little bit of non-technical. So be mindful, be cautious. People get rejected in this round as well, so just have a different set of mind, a different approach when you're going for a managerial round. Do not think this to be a typical technical round. That's all I want you to go forward with for a managerial round. Yeah, any questions, guys, please feel free to put in the chat. You have this opportunity to ask me anything you want, so that it can be you can get your questions answered. All right. HR round. Okay, so what exactly is HR round? I think everybody knows it's a human resource guy who is going to basically ask you about your personal things. And so yeah, I have even seen people getting rejected in HR rounds because their attitude is not good. All right, the HR did not think that he has the right attitude to fit into the work culture of that particular company, and hence he got rejected. He may be superb at his technical skills, but just didn't have the right attitude to match up with the work environment. All right, so HR rounds are important because they gauge you on your personality, on your attitude. All right, so questions that are asked to you, be honest, keep it short and nice, and answer to the point. Okay, you do not have to over explain things, because these people really get into details, and you do not want to get into the trap of answering too overcomplicated answer, getting into too overcomplicated answers. Yeah, knowing company core values is a super plus. All right, I think I will recommend this even for managerial rounds. All right, you go to any big company, right, any company, let's say VMware, Nutanix, any company's official website, right, Infosys, any company, go to their official website, you will see the core values written in bold. All right, know these core values, because when they ask you questions like why should we hire you, the question like this, right, if you can say that I know the core values of the company is so and so, and I do strongly believe that these core values are required in a work environment, I follow those core values, let's say, so I think that I would be a strong fit for the company. All right, so when you give these kind of answers, it not only shows that you are technically perfect, you have done a good research, you have done your homework well before coming for the interview. All right, it's very, very important. Okay, because see, there are so many engineers that pass out. All right, um a few of them are not technically scaled up, let me put it that way. A few of them are not, the attitude is not scaled up. All right, so it's important that you balance both of it. Do not focus on the technical portion so much that you forget how to answer in a managerial or a GD for that matter. All right, you need to balance it out, you need to balance things out, because they are looking for an all-rounder kind of a person. All right, yeah, so those would be most of my questions. What we demand for salary expectations. Okay, Shikha also has a question. Sorry, Shikha, I'll take your question first. Resume format does matter. Resume format, I think if you just have a little the modern kind of resume format, not line, not written in paragraphs but written in bullets. You can even put in a little bit of color, your photograph if you are willing to, not necessary. Keep it 2 pages, put in bullets what you have done, a little bit of explanation for your projects, right? I think that's fine. The format could be whatever you feel. If you think you have a strong skill set, so soon after your marks maybe you can put your skill set. If you think your co-curricular activities are better, maybe you can put there. If you think your project was really interesting, put in your project there. So whatever is good, let's say, you try to fit into the first page, maybe, so that when they are looking at it, they see the highlights, what you have done well, what are your particular achievements. All right. What do we demand for salary expectations? Okay. Salary expectations, mostly when they are taking these interviews for college grads, how much I know, or how many I've been a part of, usually there's a fixed compensation that has been said, that this is going to be a compensation, your fixed, your variable, whatever your extras are, right? So HRs can ask this question, isn't it? If they ask you about this, because that salary component cannot be changed in your case, I will just recommend saying, like, as per industry standards, to start off, what your company is offering is a good number, and I'm sure I'll be able to scale up because of my skill set. You can give answers like this, because the salary is not going to change, but after 1 year, the hikes you get and everything, that can be changed according to your own work, or according to your own achievements that you have done in the company. All right. If we add simple web projects, is that okay, or it has to be some big projects? No, if you think that you have done the web project, fine, you can absolutely add it. There's nothing small and big, trust me. All they're looking for is some honest work that has been done. So even if you have done the smallest thing, but you know the details about what you have done, I think that's good enough. Don't worry. Okay. Any more questions, guys? I know it's almost time to wrap up. This session is past the time that I was given, and my bad, because I had a meeting which I couldn't finish in time. Yeah, any more questions, guys? Does being no, being confident means argue? No, there's a huge line of difference between being confident and being overconfident and being rude. All right. When you say confident, which means that you have a smile and you are not muttering and you are giving your answers properly to the point. All right. If the interviewer is like, are you sure of this answer? When you're confident, you're like, yes, I am sure of the answer. I think I have said this right. There could be a few additions to it, but how much I recall and how much I have read, this is what I know. That is being confident. All right. You cannot really say that, oh, how can you doubt my knowledge? No, no arguing. You cannot even argue in a GD. Forget about a one-to-one interview. No arguing at all. All right. Any other questions, guys? How to deal with situations when we encounter some questions from resume that we just have basic idea why the interviewer wants to go in depth. Okay, Ayush, good question. If you have a basic knowledge on a particular topic, make sure in your resume itself you just write basic knowledge, something of that sort, or some skill set that is basic, advanced. Maybe you are advanced in Python, make sure you have mentioned advanced there, basic in C++, whatever it is for in your case, right? So that will again show that yeah, okay, this person has some knowledge on this and this as well. And if the interviewer is asking you questions on a basic, which I have encountered a lot of times in a lot of interviews, that whatever I mentioned that, oh, I have little bit of knowledge on this one, I get questions on those. No problem, whatever you know, you answer. All right. Beyond that, say, as I've already mentioned, that I have basic knowledge on this. However, if required, I can always scale up to it because I'm interested. You say, for now I'm basic, but I'm interested in this particular topic, so I can scale up on this. I'm reading maybe some blogs or some going through some courses, because of which I will scale up in this particular basic topic as well. So that can definitely be a good answer according to me. Some minor project that could be included in resume, that must be, no, there's nothing must that needs to be included. If you have done something, well and good. If you haven't done something, I mean, you need to do something. If you are not doing something, let me just put it very right on your face. I mean, blunt on your face. Let me be blunt on your face. I mean, start doing something. Start scaling up. The competition is just too high. As much as the market is moving forward, as much as, yeah, the market is moving forward, remember that so many students are also getting passed out. So it's very easy for somebody else to move forward if you do not have basic information. Should we be active on LinkedIn? Yes, LinkedIn is good for networking, very good for networking. So why not go for it? And you can definitely see, let's say you're interviewing for some company, you come across some person, you see what kind of profile they are in, or yeah, look, instead of scrolling people on Instagram, I think scroll people on LinkedIn is going to help you decide your future as well. You can see how career path, what interests me the most in LinkedIn basically is career growth for a particular person. You know, how did this person become a VP, from where they do it start. So a lot of times I see what they were also a systems engineer some time back down the line, and now they have become, how they have grown. So that path is always there, and you know, more like stalking people on the technical aspect, yeah, whatever. Okay. Can you tell some projects? Okay, so Riansh, projects can be on every topic. You know, I work on cloud virtualization and all. These projects become a little advanced. I usually do not see people taking up virtualization projects in college, to be honest. But once they come into the industry, they have basic knowledge, and once they come into the industry, maybe they get a little bit of projects. So I may not be the best person to answer that question, but I'm sure that there could be some even NLPMI projects, some basic ones that are there on, and maybe I can do a little bit of research for you. I can get back to you over LinkedIn or something. I can always help you with that. Good projects which companies give preference. Every project is a good project, trust me. Even a simple, you know, web based application is good if you have done it, as long as you know what is in it, trust me. So any project is a good project. Nothing like preference. If it is preference, could be something like, if it is a cloud based company, if there is a project that is done on some cloud based technology, that's where the preference would come in the picture. But if you're interviewing for an, let's say, an MI based AI based company, and you have done something on the cloud, maybe that, so it's company to company the preference goes, trust me. Just go with the basic understanding that you need to do something on your own, that's it. Okay. In which order should you make a resume as a fresher? Again, as I told you, Ankush, whatever according to me, your projects should come first. If you ask me, I will say projects should come first. After that, whatever you have done, some people are in NSS, NCC, so that is like an extra skill, right? Some social activity, some orphanage activity, they are very actively engaged with, NGO related. So those things can come first because those are eye catchy, right? So whatever is not so important, maybe that can just lag behind a bit. It's fine. If you want a certain package but companies giving you, should we settle? No, you shouldn't, because you're freshers. You can't settle for salaries. That will happen only when you are a little bit experienced. LinkedIn sometimes works as a bad influence. Again, Ayush, for somebody who wants to make, you know, there is always good and bad thing. There's always two sides of a coin. All right. It is your perspective, how you're looking at it. All right. So if you think it was a bad influence, don't look at it. It's fine. It's not like a force. It's just a recommendation, more of a recommendation. When others are achieving and you haven't achieved, I think that's also something good. It simply reminds you that, dude, you're not doing something in life. All right, because this is a time when you can really work hard. You need to work hard because you need to land yourself in a good position. If you get a 15 lakh job and your friends are still struggling in the 5 to 7 lakh range, trust me, you are at a better position. So if you are a good influence, if you get good influence from others, it's going to benefit you, nobody else. So is it too late to get in a good company if you haven't started? No, it's never late. Never late. Start today itself. Start data structures today itself, because those questions are going to be asked. No matter what role it is, they will be asked. All right, so never late. Start today itself. You're in third year, you still have 1 year time. Go for it. All right, and I think we can wrap up. You guys, if you have questions, right, I think I might want to take it later, or I'll just take these. From where did you study? I studied from DY Patil Pimpri Pune. It wasn't a IIT and IT college. It was a very standard private college. So trust me, I was good at a lot of things. I used to train actually my batchmates on speaking skills and GD and even technical interviews for that matter. You need not start from somewhere very good. Trust me, you can always improve yourself. Even though I was good at things, I still enrolled myself on multiple places so that I don't miss out on things. I had that thing in me always, which helped. I landed the biggest package in college. I was happy enough. That is what mattered to me at the end of the day. So it all made sense. What are prerequisites for getting a reference from an employee in a company? Being a fresher, getting a reference is very, very difficult. If you're doing internships in that particular company, getting a reference could be easy, but try landing yourself a job in campus placements. That is the number one suggestion that I can have for you. You're in second year. Which development will you choose now, web development or Android development, and why? Web development or Android development? I don't think I even had this option in second year, but if you ask me, I would go for maybe web development, because Android, both are equally good. You can choose any one of it, as long as whatever you're interested in, go for it. I may be interested in web, you may be interested in Android, go for Android. All right, because both are good, both are in the market, both are things that will not go away from the market in a very long time. So go for it, no worries. When will contest solutions will be discussed? I think we are running short of time today. Yeah, we need to really discuss on those. Kajal, you there?
I am here, Sankriti. Yes.
Yeah, I know that we have run out of time. Even I am also running out of time. I have another meeting actually in a couple of minutes. Regarding the contest solutions, maybe I can look through the questions and help them. Maybe plan it out and then send over to them. It's okay, or we can take another session if that's okay.
Sure, not an issue. So
Okay.
what we can do here is, like, you can just make the solution of every question and we'll email it to the students. And if they have any kind of query, they can reach out to you on LinkedIn and please explain it to them, right?
Yeah, sure. I'm not going to give them ready-made answers. All right, I'm not here to give ready-made answers. If you have questions, get back. I think that's going to be my way of doing things.
Sure.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you for all the questions. You were a great audience. I wish you all the best. All right, do well. Start preparing all the technical things that you need, technical and non-technical both, and you can reach out to me via LinkedIn. Okay, I don't have the ID right away. If you just search my name, it's a very uncommon name, you will find me, or my email address would be nti@gmail.com. Reach out to me. I may be a little busy in the next few days because I'm going through a job change. I'm applying. I'm in a transition for another job, and also I may take a little bit of time to get back to you, but I'll definitely get back to you. All right, and all the best.